Hey everybody, welcome to Bottom Line. I'm Lauren Kalil with Morning Chalk Up, and today we have our expert sports analysts, Tommy Marquez, Brian Friend, and Patrick Clark with us ahead of the Rogue Invitational, just a couple days away. Finally, the events have been released. What are your initial thoughts about what we've seen so far?
Well, I'm embarrassed by the size of my water bottle relative to Tommy's.
Man,
This is how you establish dominance in
wow.
a show.
exactly. He's the alpha.
Stay hydrated.
So he gets to go first.
Yeah, there we
All
go.
All
Take the coin toss.
Yeah. So the big thing for me when Rogue was first announced, I was curious how they were going to incorporate something new into it. I think with generally speaking, Rogue has everything at their disposal as far as equipment, as far as engineering, as far as creativity around adapting to this new environment at the Diamond Dell Arena. And I was kind of curious to see if there was going to be any newly machined implements that we might see. But I think for the most part, everything that is included here, we've at least seen once.
Or something like it.
To some variation.
Similar.
Yeah. I'm actually really interested and this is not crazy. Just out of curiosity, I'm really interested to see how the first event goes, the Go Ruck event. I think incorporating the Go Ruck pack the entire time, and then elements that we've seen at the games, wheelbarrow, moving, going over and under logs, sandbag climbs up to the hill. I think this is like a nice conglomeration of a lot of elements that we've seen at the games moved into like one like ultimate like blue collar work type event. And for any athletes that were maybe hoping for, inside of the gym type programming, like you would see it like a sanctional, like this is an immediate, like, no, this is Rogue. We're going to do our own flavor.
It's also in terms of a Go Ruck event, it's like the least running specific workout we've ever had with the Ruck.
Yeah.
Obviously they have to go up and down this hill, but there's no, like, even if you think of the Battleground event where they're wearing a weight vest the whole time, there's this designated portion of the event that's just running. And so someone who might do well in that portion of a Go Ruck style event doesn't really get that here.
Yeah,
100%.
I think people when they watched, oh, go ahead, Tommy.
No, go. I'm curious.
Well, I think people when they watch this, they got to understand that this is the Rogue Invitational. They're not trying to find the fittest, so their test is totally different than what you would see at the games, and I think that's why you have, just a lot of, I don't know, the workouts seem like they're a lot shorter. Like Brian said, there's not much running. Obviously, there's no swimming. It just seems it's more of like almost like a strongman CrossFit type of workout.
I wonder about the time domains for some of these workouts. There's, every single workout has one, maybe besides the lifting, has like, or the thrusters also, but there's like elements of the workouts that we don't necessarily know. How hard is that hill run? How long is it? What is the weight of these jerry cans, or what's this wheelbarrows? So there's certain things that we don't know. I was thinking last night, it might've been nice to have the time caps in addition to the workouts just to get a better feel. Cause I think that two of the workouts are going to be a little bit longer, but I'm not certain of that.
Yeah.
Which probably make it hard to predict who's going to do well in these workouts before we see what those time caps are.
I think it's we know these athletes really well, and we can still kind of assess who will do well in general on what types of workouts. But definitely, there's some things that could like a wheelbarrow. If it just says wheelbarrow, there's so many different iterations of what that could look like that could factor into this workout and make it the critical component of it, or just kind of like a thing that's there at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, I mean, and that wheelbarrow workout, there's a push and a pull with it, so it might be some type of new implement. When you think wheelbarrow, you're probably thinking just pushing and pulling with one wheel, but who knows? Who knows what Rogue will do?
Well, I like the blend over a little bit from some of like the, I don't want to say strongman elements, but it definitely feels like there's a little bit of a tie between the two events, and in terms of like highlighting the full breadth of what Rogue's sport influences are. I guess this is a good way of putting it. They have the strongman event going on. They have the legends event. They have multiple other things going on. And I think it's cool to, at least for them too, because you have to remember, like, Rogue is trying to highlight all the different variations of equipment and fitness and things like that you can have. And I think that's something that's very unique for them, as particularly being an equipment manufacturer. So we'll get to see a little bit of like the kitchen sink as far as like everything that Rogue has to offer.
How much do you think the new location is going to play a part in, the overall atmosphere for these athletes?
I think leading with an event that has the hill that I believe they're either building or is already there is an immediate influence of the event, right? And like that's something that, when we talk about the games and Dave figuring out how to bring in elements of the environment into the test of fitness, it's not just Dave doing that. It's Dave and Bill Henniger because, and Katie and the whole team at Rogue, right? Because they have to work together to ideate on how to make it actually feasible from an equipment and logistics standpoint too, and what they can, potentially read. Like that obstacle course from the battleground doesn't happen without Rogue. So I think there's elements of that in that creation process that that maybe goes unnoticed, at least on Rogue's end, because they're not, the face like Dave Castro kind of, bringing a little bit of the attention his way. So I think it's cool. I think we'll definitely see more of it if they decide to stay here and build off of that.
And it could be, we know that the games team is searching for potential future locations. And this, if this goes well inside of a baseball stadium, there's a lot of baseball stadiums around the country and maybe the world that are close by other sports complexes. And if this goes well, this could be another example of Rogue, similarly to what they did with the online platform when they had to do that, where they could be using a facility, and if they execute it well, it could be something that we end up seeing something similar in the games down the road.
Yeah, and baseball stadiums provide a very unique viewing experience, right? Because of the way that they're shaped and the layout of their fans and everything like that. So depending on how, and I'll be really interested to see what the spectator experience looks like there, like you said, Brian, because I think especially when you get outside of the professional, like the major league ballparks, and you get into the AAA, AA, minor league teams, you get some very creative layouts as far as how they situate fans and what they do to maximize space. So I think that could be a cool twist to the viewing experience if that's something that is pulled off successfully.
So when it comes to the athletes, who are we most looking forward to see compete?
PC, take it away.
I want to see Ben Smith. I'm really looking forward to see Ben Smith. It's been a while since we've seen him in live competition. I mean, we saw him at the MAC, but he was an invite to this. He was a guy. He was only one of the only invites that didn't compete at the games. He was there as a coach for Laura Horvath. But I'm interested to see what he does. And some of these events, they kind of. I love the Bella Complex. I think he's going to do really well in that. There's some other workouts there. I think he might do really well. He might surprise some people. I mean, I did a power rankings and I have him in my top 10.
Yeah, man. I mean, we don't like Ben's not that old. He's only 32 years old or something like that. But you think of him.
Why does everybody always think him? Yeah, everyone.
Well, he's been around since the beginning. Basically, it's incredible. But I was a little surprised at how poorly he did at the MAC. I don't think he's going to walk away from that feeling very good. So I think he'll be coming in here, maybe not with a huge amount of expectation, but definitely some pride and wanting to show out and do well. So I think Ben's a great person to talk about. I also think there's a Smith that's going to be fun to see, which is Chandler Smith. He did not have a very good season this year for him. Everyone was expecting him to win the semifinal. He didn't. Everyone was expecting him to, at the very minimum, make the top 20 at the games. Barely misses out. But he's got really good track record at Rogue. We know that strength is featured here, and he's obviously very strong. What I'm curious to see is if he's fixed his overhead position at all on the lifting event, because we can remember back to when the online version came around and Mike Bergener was so critical of him and extended even an opportunity for him to reach out and improve on that. So hopefully he's got a little bit more sound technique on the lifting, but I also expect him to be like relevant in terms of top 5 contender as opposed to not that relevant at the games this summer.
Yeah. It's hard to pick just one in this because I think there are a ton of anytime you have a field that's equivalent to the top 20 at the games, there are a ton of storylines coming off of that. Considering we had quite a few breakout stars at this year's games. I love Ben. I love Chandler. I'm really interested to see what a potentially healthy Sam Quant looks like in a highly condensed, highly selective field like this. I mean, anyone who was there at the MAC knew that he wasn't 100%. There was just something off about him, and it was pretty apparent from the get go. So, how have the last 4 to 5 months spent trying to correct his chronic illness issue and hopefully building back the fitness that we saw in 2020? Going to manifest itself in this field where now that a lot of these athletes have arrived, there is very little wiggle room for error. On the women's side, I think for me, especially with the recent news, it's got to be Carrie Pierce, just with this being her swan song and looking at a couple of the events to see like, oh, where is she going to take a chance and try and have this moment, because it's going to be the last time stepping on the competition floor, and we didn't get to see that at the games, and there's always going to be the discussions around what if, and that's just the nature of sports dialogue. But what is that going to look like here at Rogue when she's not necessarily competing for a spot on the games leaderboard anymore? And I don't know if that's freeing. I spoke with her on Monday. We had an interview with her, and I think she's really more just trying to soak it all in. And there's an element of an athlete that's completely free of any restraints or expectations for themselves, and that can just kind of like go out there and just like let it rip. And I'm always interested to see what that looks like from athlete to athlete.
Yeah, we almost saw that with Scott this year. I mean, just imagine a healthy Scott Panchek, him just letting loose. So, Carrie being healthy and not having games, she's been training outside of that week that she had COVID, where she kind of just self-isolating. She hasn't stopped training. So this is, like you said, this is essentially her games. But on the women's side, someone I'm actually really interested to see is Emma Carey. I want to see how she bounced back. She was actually pretty disappointed in her games performance, and she hasn't stopped training. She didn't take any time off after the games, and she's, if you've been watching some of the Zalos games, you saw what she did on that on the snatch, that little snatch complex they had, and I talked to her the other day, and she's excited, and she says she's ready for it, and this is, we'll see how she does.
Yeah, those are great picks and great stories to follow. I'm kind of torn on the women if I have to pick one. On one hand, someone was asking me recently about Mallory O'Brien, and they're like, in terms of movements, what is she bad at? And I was like, man, I don't know. But the thing I ended up telling them was the Echo Bike. But they asked me also what was her best movement, and I said maybe thrusters, and those things are paired together. The thing that I'm really curious about for Mallory O'Brien is she strikes me as the type of athlete who, following the games, will look back and see how far behind she was on the Echo Bike, and knowing how committed her and her coach are to improving and being competitive in every element. I would not be surprised if she's been hammering that thing in the past couple months. And if so I'm specifically curious to see how she does on that implement in that workout, where I think is a critical component of the workout. But the other girl that I have to say I'm super interested to see how she does this weekend is Gabby McGowa. I think she surprised a lot of people at the games, finishing as high as she did. She's very strong. If she has a weakness, it's in upper body pulling. But if there's no legless rope climbs, she's okay with regular rope climbs. And otherwise, there's just those muscle ups, which she just has to manage. But outside of that, I think the programming looks pretty good for her. So those are the two I'm kind of watching for the women.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about the young athletes that emerge in general. Like, how do you back up an impressive games performance where suddenly there's expectations, there's spotlight, there's accolades, and there's a whole ton of attention being thrown your way where maybe it just wasn't quite the same, or at least ratcheted up to the same degree before to the games. I mean, Guy's a great example of that. He's been a high profile signing for the Mayhem crew. Obviously Emma and Mal, but Gabby and Haley, who both have been at the games multiple times now, and for Haley, she's at the point now where every event she should be coming in expecting to podium, regardless of what stage of the year or competition. That's just I
don't know, but I think this might be the one event where she doesn't have that expectation because it's so strength dominant. I'm expecting another weightlifting event in the finale, and if you look at her finishes at Rogue relative to every other competition, she's always a little bit worse there.
Well, but then again, like that may be the case that it's more strength dominant, but that's also the thing that she needs to work on. So if she's not actively working on that, and she can't step into an arena where there's some strength bias and expect to still podium, then that almost that's going to be a continued gap in her fitness that is going to prevent her from ultimately reaching her goal of winning the games. So to me, it's like I have to build the mindset. Like if you know, a generally poor example of that is I was awful shooting left-handed in lacrosse. But you know what? I have to embrace and look forward to taking shots with my left hand and actively pursuing that in order for me to consider myself a truly good lacrosse player. I think for Haley to be able to carry the expectation of podium finishes, even when the programming doesn't line up well for her, I think that's when you've, you know, truly arrived or reached the level that you're of the woman you're, let's be honest, everyone's chasing in Tia.
Yeah. Right. Speaking of podium, another female I'm looking out for is Horvath. Obviously, one of the workouts, it's not deficit handstand push-ups, but you know, she's got 60 strict handstand push-ups to do. So I'm interested to see how she does in that event. And obviously, you know, the last time she was Rogue, I was there. I was the one no-repping her on that deficit handstand push-up, and it'd be interesting to see how she bounces back with that.
I didn't know that, Patrick.
Did you bounce back from that?
That was me. If you go back and watch that, it's me and Laura, and then everyone else joined us the last 2 minutes.
Oh, no. We're gonna have to like be around you, Pat, in case you have any flashbacks.
Yeah.
I think she'll be. I think she'll be okay on that workout. She'll have to manage those, but I think there's enough other stuff around it that she'll still be in the mix on that one.
Yeah, it's a good chipper, but it's something to look out for.
Yeah, for sure. I think you look at the first, like Laura does so well when you get outside of the box and doing some of like the grunt work type stuff. The ruck, I mean, you look at how she handled the Husafeld bag, the battleground event, the skier, all of those things that she did extremely well. And those are the events she wins at the games. When you start to mix machine work or, odd object type stuff with, the occasion, I almost call it like jungle gym type stuff. You're like, you're moving up and down ropes and ladders and you might do some upper body pulling or some other gymnastics type stuff. But when you mix it in with all the other playground type equipment, she's going to smash. I think she also really enjoy the lifting complex, the Bella complex, because everyone I think gravitates to the fact that her upper body strict pressing is bad, which is actually when you start to add in her hips behind it, she's really good overhead. And I don't know if the details on that are necessarily it has to be a full clean. But if you're strong enough for the athlete that can power clean that first bar and save some of their legs for the jerks later on and only have to squat it once and still put up something strong, that's going to be a tremendous advantage for someone like Laura as well.
How prepared do you guys think these athletes are going into an event that's off season for them?
I think there's a huge spectrum, but I think for the most part, people are preparing for this pretty seriously. I mean, I've heard some rumblings that like BKG's, he's like pretty dialed in and ready to go for this as if it was the games. And with so much prize money on the line, why not?
That's
if
it.
There's yeah, seriously. And I mean, there are some big events coming up, but nothing like this in terms of a first place prize. So if you think that you can take down the title here, why wouldn't you be preparing in every way you can to try to win this thing?
Yeah, and that pot is just getting bigger and bigger as we're speaking right now. Every ticket sold is in Bitcoin. I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah, if you're not taking this seriously, I don't know what to say. It's like you don't want to show up to get 11th through 20th and only make $800. But you want to be in that top 10 at least, if not win it.
I almost think you'll be emboldened to train hard too, because if even if you maybe push a little bit too much or maybe don't dial in the right way in the effort to try and get ready soon, at worst you're going to make what, $6,000 and then you can. And I think we're also going to see some athletes take some chances too, because once you get inside the top 10, we're talking basically a whole nother factor comes in. You go up another $6,000, another $6,000, another $6,000. You just keep going up by those percentage points with every chance. So we could get into the final day, and if points are close, we're going to see some athletes maybe swing for some fences on some events to try and pick up an extra $6,000 to $7,000 to maybe even $12,000 if they start racking up wins.
Yeah, that's why that like Brian said, that final event, I'm very interested to see what that is, especially if it's a close race. You're going to see a lot of people, when they announce that, you'll start seeing some strategy put in play.
It's crazy because I think on the women's side, Tia's place is fairly secure. But if you look on the men's side, if we have a close race between first through maybe third, and it's any way resembles what some of the point spreads at the games, maybe even less now that we don't have things like the swim in it. I mean, we're talking $200,000+ could be on the line for the top 3 athletes going into 1 or 2 tests. And if that test is, think about it, if that test is under 10 minutes. Think about it, 10 minutes for $200,000. That is like schoolyard stuff that you think about, hitting the last fadeaway as the buzzer goes out.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think it's more likely that the last event is a squat snatch ladder, a la the squat clean ladder that they had 2 years ago, or that we see heavy dumbbell squat snatches since Rich's programming? They did have heavy dumbbell squat snatches 2 years ago as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like Rogue's got to put a dumbbell in. Like, why would you not, from a marketing standpoint, want to have your dumbbells on display at some point?
Yeah. And it had to be something to snatch. I mean, why wouldn't
Let's get wild with it, all right? I think
let's go there.
do it.
Let's
wild.
I think we'll go dumbbell, but not just any dumbbell. I think they're going to I would think it would be cool to do a variation of the sear dumbbell that the strongman athletes are doing and have to get overhead. I think it would be cool to mix in another strongman implement that's being directly used, although to a lesser degree. Or, and I'm trying to find this.
Or the Wheel of Pain.
To make all Sean Woodland's dreams come true.
Oh my God. There is a certain implement that Bill Henniger has posted to his Instagram that I don't see in the programming anywhere. One that a certain Marvel superhero likes to wield from time to time.
I gotcha.
I don't know what you would do with it or how. Maybe it's a fight to the death. Whoever can, maybe who could pick it up like it's a deadlift. But I think it would be cool to see that Thor's hammer. Like, that would be a great name for it.
Yeah.
Are you worthy, or who's worthy? Yeah. And that's the finale.
I love it.
They need you on the marketing team.
This is great.
Hey, it writes itself. The first one's on the house.
That one's free.
So the bottom line, who are your podium picks?
Lauren, can we do 3? Can we do podium and also 1 dark horse each?
Sure. Yeah, I love that. Yep.
girls or guys first?
Let's start with the ladies.
All right, I'll go first for the girls and last for the guys. Girls, okay. I'm gonna take Tia, Laura, Annie, and dark horse pick for me is gonna be Carolyn Prevost. Not necessarily to be on the podium, but to do way better than she did at the games and finish inside the top 10.
Well, I'm gonna go Tia, Annie, Haley, and my dark horse would be Emma Carey, and I think probably in the top 5. Emma finishing in the top 5. That's my dark horse.
I am gonna go Tia, Laura, Gabby. We go Tia, Laura, Gabby, and my dark horse is Amanda Barnhart.
Ooh. How high do you think she'll finish? Or what do you think's the ceiling for her here?
I think the ceiling for her is 3rd.
Wow.
I think some of the odd object strong stuff, like I think the thruster, like a bike event is great for her. The complex is great for her. I think there's a lot of good elements for her overall.
I think she might do surprisingly well on the chipper too. I think she's going to do well. I have her I feel like she's like 5th through 7th for me.
The mule.
I have her 8.
The mule is something that we haven't really talked about. It's a repeat from 2019. That actually is better for the bigger athlete. It slows down the faster athlete that can move at things like chest to bar and burpees by combining them. And we saw that with how well Vellner did in that relative to everyone else.
And Annie smashed everyone in that.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Tia finished 4th or 5th in that one.
Mm-hmm. So those are my 3 of my dark horse.
Reverse order for the guys?
Yep. Reverse order. We'll start with Tommy and end with Brian.
My guys are BKG, Medeiros, and Vellner.
In that order.
Yes.
Okay.
And
You said that like a question, Brian.
It was a question.
And my dark horse. Ooh.
Dark horse for the men is tough. There's some good choices here.
There's so many.
I'm gonna say. I'll say my dark horse is Cole Sager.
Did well, and last time they had it in 2019. Okay.
All right, PC,
I'm
what do you got?
Vellner. I'm gonna go Vellner, Chandler, and I would probably get killed if Mama Medeiros, if I didn't pick Justin for at least finish on the podium. But yeah, Justin finishing third. Chandler, he's gonna crush that Bella complex. Vellner won it back in 2019, but I think only because Chandler was in a different heat. But I mean, that's a ton. I would like to actually see Tommy Marquez do that workout.
The mule? Are you talking about the mule?
The mule, not the Bella. But I think Chandler's going to do well in the Bella. He'll do good in the ruck. I think he'll be fine. And then my dark horse, I'm going to go Vino.
Damn, that's what I was going to pick. I got a backup though. Don't worry.
Of course you do. Of course you do. But yeah, I got Alex Vino. He's someone that I think can potentially be top 5. If not, he might find himself on the podium if things work out.
Yeah, I think these workouts line up really well for Vino. He's a workhorse type of guy, power output type of guy. Interesting that they have, there's a bunch of monostructural implements here, and they're pretty well dispersed. You actually have a machine in 3 different implements or 3 different workouts, and I think that goes a long way for someone like a Vino who's got high power output and good capacity on the machines.
Yeah.
I think that Vellner and Medeiros are in a league of their own. I think Vellner will edge Justin on this one. But I don't think that discredits Justin's performance on the games, and no matter what. But I would take Vellner,
I agree.
Medeiros, and I do think BKG. So I think that the top 3 competing from the games will be the same for the men. Just switch the top 2. And my backup dark horse after Vino, I'm gonna go with Jason Hopper on this one for the reasons basically that I just said about Vino. Is he's really good on the machines. The gymnastics is kind of limited. It is kind of big chunks, but it's limited to that one workout, really. I don't think the rope climbs will slow him down. I think he'll do well in every other part of that workout. He's a decent lifter, good power output on the echo burn, good power output on the ski workout. Should be fine on the mule. Like, I don't see anything that's really bad or glaring for him here. And we can't, the weird thing about Hopper is he was so good, and then he was so disappointing and screwed up every workout at the games. So we have this like Jekyll and Hyde thing with him. And I just think these workouts are really good for him. So I think he's I don't know what his like maximum potential is against this field, but if he finished in the top 5, I wouldn't be that shocked with what I'm seeing in terms of the workouts.
Yeah, he's another guy like I just kind of like kicked in my head about watching, because after the games I saw him in the Madison airport, and we sat down and chatted for a little while, and he was just saying how big of a, I don't want to say a shock it was, but just how different it was doing the events outside and the mixture of implements that you see at the games and the combinations that you would never see pretty much anywhere else. And I think that's where he kind of got caught off guard a little bit, because semifinals were such, I would say, classic CrossFit plus, like regionals level, elite level classic CrossFit. And a lot of the implements, he just couldn't quite figure out the strategies or the throttle and when to push and things like that. And so we saw some mistakes from him. And this is a great opportunity to, like, if he was like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to hammer some of these things. If he's been working on those things and practicing a lot more with some of the implements that he knows can show up, it's an opportunity just to slowly chip away at one of those things that caught him at the games.
Well, soon enough, we will know which one of you had the closest to the accurate guesses.
Oof. Oh man.
I know.
I feel like I actually took the safest picks here. I mean, Tommy picked BKG to win, and Patrick's got Chandler finishing second.
So sorry. I thought
you had in reverse order.
I had in reverse order.
No.
Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm glad that we clarified that.
You always announce the podium third, second, first, right?
Third, yeah. Sure.
You didn't it for the women?
I didn't. You're right, because
you tricked me.
Reverse. The snake
I
draft.
did.
There's
This
so much confusion.
And what's really fun about this, and especially the sport right now with like condensed fields like that, is I look at and there's 8 people on either side at least that I wouldn't be surprised if they caught a tailwind and found themselves with some hardware at the end of the week.
I mean, dude, we didn't even mention Saxon Panchik. This guy's
I
like,
know.
there's no reason not to think he shouldn't finish in the top 5 in any competition he enters, but that's just how deep the field is. Jeff Adler's super strong. Travis Mayer should be good on these workouts. It's going to be really, really competitive on both the men's and women's fields.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting event.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch. Can't wait.
Yeah. We have Tommy and Patrick. You'll have boots on the ground there. Brian and I will be home watching and giving you guys the full coverage. It's going to be an exciting weekend.
The biggest question I want to know, though, is what is everyone dressing up for Halloween?
Well, let me just tell you this, Tommy. I'm not growing out this beard and hair for nothing. And you and Sean are gonna absolutely love it when you find out, but you have to wait till Saturday night.
Oh man, I can't wait.
My costume didn't come in on time. It got stuck in China. So
along with the microphone, I bet.
Oh,
gonna keep bringing that one up.
Won't let stuff go. Won't let stuff go.
End the call. End the call.
Tommy, did you guys decide on a costume?
I got a text and a FaceTime attempt from Marston while we were on this call, which I think they're at the Spirit Halloween store with Heber and his kids. I got when I talked to them earlier, they were shouting at the top of their lungs in the Halloween store. I guess one of Heber's kids farted and the other one was none too pleased. So that's the status of my my Halloween costume right now. But
solid.
I'm gonna rock a mustache, I think, somehow.
Okay.
Well. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be an exciting weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll see who gets the closest picks. And thanks for joining The Bottom Line.
Thanks, Lauren.